Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now today we are going to be, I am going to be showing you some of my SFM tactics. We are going to take a look on how to install Source Filmmaker. I will give you not all my knowledge, but I'll give you some of the knowledge that you will need to get started. Source Filmmaker is just an animation program, technically, but it can also make, posters, stuff like what is on my Divine Art page. Like those types of images were made in that program. So first of all, you will need a Steam account. Now it's important that you have a Steam account because you need to install Source Filmmaker. Now in my case, I'm already logged in. Let me just drag this window over to here. So once you have a Steam account set up, the first thing you want to do is you want to click up here where it says store. Then inside the search bar, you want to search Source Filmmaker like this. And then you want to click this. Now once you clicked it, you want to click on use now or free. So you want to click on it. It's totally free, no hidden ads, nothing. Now we basically wait for it to install. Now you can see with my internet connection, it's not the best, I know. I eventually do want to fix it, but right now I just can't. All right, so now my Source Filmmaker installation has finished. Now we will start it so I can kind of go over how you would set up a session. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, for most people, this will be your only thing if you don't have like games on Steam. Now you can see I have a bunch of games. It will also be on your desktop, so you can double click on the icon, or you can basically go in here, click play. Then you want to select launch SDK and press on play. Then, it will ask, do you want to make changes? I'm going to click on yes. Now, basically the Source Filmmaker will launch. This might take a little while, depending on how fast the storage is you installed it on. If you installed it on a hard drive, it could take a little while. Now the frame rate, I'll get to what basically frame rate is the best to use, especially when you're working on stuff like, posters, things like that. The best frame rate in SFM is 60 frames a second. However, there is an exception. 60 frames a second, exactly 60 frames a second tends to not play along well with Source Filmmaker, especially when you're working on stuff like lighting and things. While I always do 60, if you suffer any problems during your sessions, I would recommend experimenting. Try 30 frames a second, and if that doesn't work, try this up here, the 59.94. If you try this, it will basically limit the frames, but it's going to feel almost like 60 FPS and it won't crash. But anyways, so after you're done, you want to click on create on the side right here. Click on that. Now we are basically inside of, I like to call it the management center-ish. I like to call it the management center. Once we are in here and you can see, my FPS shoot over the frame cap and the memory usage is very low. You want to keep mainly an eye on the memory usage, and the frames don't really matter, but the memory usage is important and especially when you're working inside, your frame. I'll show you how to do that in a second here. But if you're working inside of there, the memory usage goes high. And if it reaches a certain threshold, that's why, by the way, for hosts who are tending to get into SFM, I would recommend at least 16 to 32 gigabytes of system memory. Nowadays, everybody almost has it. Cult B3 something overflow. Once that message pops up, basically SFM has crashed. Now don't click on OK right away inside of that message, because it will force close SFM and you don't have an option to save. I mean, sometimes if you're lucky, SFM likes to create autosaves, but that can put you back 20 to 30 minutes, especially when you're working on projects like I am. I'm now going to show you a little bit of the basics here. So we're going to go through the left side first. The animation set editor is basically where your models will be for you to select or move or even chain together. Chaining models together tends to be one of the more frequent duties you are going to be doing. You will see that in a minute. Now, by default, you can't move models. We have a couple tools here. The standard tool, as it is right here, is this circle. This allows you to spin the models at a certain range, which means basically a certain angle. But anyways, so now that we know some of the basics, these tools will be important. This is of course important. Now, if you wanted, you could actually add like a secondary angle, I think. Yeah, you can add a secondary viewpoint, which you can drag onto like here. Now it's not really recommended. I mainly just work with the primary viewpoint. That's just basically one side, but if you want like feedback on the rear lighting to kind of see what you're doing in the front and on the rear, that is one way you would do it. Most of the important stuff. Now down here, this is basically like a video editor. You have your shot, you have your frame, you have your clip, and that is basically where your models and things will come to life, especially when you're animating, like, I don't know, let's say something like a scout or an inkling walking down a staircase or something along those lines. That is where that would need to go. The camera is going to matter in a second. You want to click on this once till it shows work camera. We will have to create a secondary camera in order to actually be able to, you know, not only do shading, but also stuff like focus or inkling and things like that. It's not complicated. I'll show you that, but don't worry, we'll go through that together. But, you know, so now that I've been going over the camera function, we'll go over the map function. The map function is basically, you know, map loading. You want to right click inside of this empty space and click on load map, and here you will see some of the, well, right now just Team Fortress. You can also use other maps like Splatoon maps and things like that. Now, one of the maps I tend to use a lot is the void map, the black void. I'm going to show you why that is, why I use it a lot. The void, as the name already implies, is just, well, you will see it, an empty black space. Now, that's not always the case, because in fact, inside of this map, if I enable, yeah, I'm at a weird angle here, but one of these corners, yep, there you go, is lit up. All right, so now that you know kind of the basics, I'm going to show you how you can install add-ons / how you can install DLCs for like games, like let's say Portal, Half-Life, Black Mesa, Left 4 Dead, and things like that. Those are all DLCs you can get for Source Filmmaker. You want to right click on properties, then you want to select DLC, and that is basically where you tick, you know, the games you want the DLCs of. So stuff like, let's say, Black Mesa, Portal content, the Stanley Parable is also one of them. You click on those and it will download the files. Now in my case, I'm going to do this after the recording because I need to be able to show you that now. So in order to now install custom content / add-ons, you want to click inside back on your library inside the Steam client. You want to click on Source Filmmaker. You want to go to Workshop. This is basically where you go look for content you want for your SFM install, like Splatoon or anything other you want. Now feel free to follow along with what I picked out of the workshop. As I said, I've sped this up so you guys don't have to wait for too long. If you want, you can pause the video and basically look through the add-ons that I've picked. So one thing I forgot to mention beforehand was I have a link down in the video description for you guys who want to check out all the add-ons and don't feel like going through the workshop for hours and hours trying to find content. You can click inside of this collection. You open it up by sending it either into your Steam or into your web browser, and you can click on subscribe to all and click on override my subscriptions. This will essentially give you guys the add-ons that I am using, and you don't have to go look basically around the workshop for them, because I know that can be painful sometimes, especially for new beginners with SFM. Launch Source Filmmaker again, and you will be greeted by a window like this. Now you want to click on OK. So now you can see it has updated. We have a bunch of stuff. You want to click on OK. And if it asks, do you want to, you know, replace stuff like, let's say, the Splatoon 3 hairstyles, all this good stuff, from the existing workshop item, click on no to all, because that way it separates the two kinds. And if you click on yes to all, what's going to happen is it might cause troubles with either textures and things depends on what you do, but can cause issues. I'm going to click on no to all again. No to all, no to all, no to all. By the way, if you have your Source Filmmaker window open, which right now I don't, you can actually see how many add-ons it has to download. It's down here. You will see that now. You can see it goes down one every time. No, I don't want to replace it. No, I don't want to replace it. And then you can see it now says everything has been downloaded. We have one more thing we need to download, and boom. Now this is in. Now, before, you start SFM like sessions and things, if you haven't already created a session and you just skip to this to basically find how to install add-ons, you want to go ahead and first of all skip back to the section where we create the session, and second of all, if you're launching Source Filmmaker, I'm going to save the session real quick. I'll save it. Then when you're launching it over the SDK, you can recover to your old session by on client launch. You want to go to recent sessions, and that is where it will show up. You want to click on open recent, and now you will see it'll basically be right here for us to use. You can kind of see that. Okay, so now that we have that, we want to disable lighting by right clicking, and now you can just see how big the void actually is. Like, that's why I love to work with it, because it's so big. There's so much room for like either map building, scene building. You get the point. But that is how you would do it. So yeah, let's begin by creating something together. Now, I don't want to go spoil, all my tricks. So stuff like the, reflective stuff, I can show you how to do that. I can show you how to dress your inklings, but, I can't show all my tricks and how I do, achieve my lighting and things like that. I'm not going to show everything. I'm just going to go over the basics. All right. So now we have this right here, right? This is basically the void. Now, make sure that you're somewhere in the middle, because when you enable lighting later, you don't want a wall being visible, because that can cause issues. You want to make sure that you're like a little far away from the wall. So around about, if your screen looks like this, then you're good to go. If it's a little closer, basically, you can use the WASD keys to move around. When you hold your mouse, you can see we can move around the camera. That is basically how you would do that. You can move around the camera, and yeah. So now once you found the offset you actually like, you want to click on the plus here. You want to go to new model. Then you want to click at the top here on rescan if you have not relaunched your SFM. If you have, then this will not be necessary. Now, something I like to do is I like to stretch out the window at least a little bit. It first of all, ups the size of the model you're viewing, and second of all, it also helps to read items off the list. Now inside the filter here, this is basically like a search. You can now type inkling like this, and then you can see all the stuff we've downloaded. So stuff like, the inkling hair stuff, the hairstyles, the hair, or the boys, basically. This is just like, you get the point probably. The model with specific hair types. Now those can be replaced. I'm going to show you that in a minute here, but I'm going to find the girl with the blue. I hope that, nope, it's not broken. Okay, so that actually works for once. Let's go ahead, and we are going to start by changing the viewpoint. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky for the new people. I always tend to forget this every time I'm making a thing. You want to highlight your model like this. So basically how you would highlight is you click on it and it opens up this whole menu. Now don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to try to explain what most of these sliders do. So the ROT or POS sliders are basically position or rotating sliders. So you won't need those right away. You can also do, custom rotations and things. I'll show you that in a minute here. But you won't need these. Don't get overwhelmed. We'll go through this together. So first of all, we want to switch to the motion editor. Now this first of all allows us to, move the inkling around inside the field and things. That is one of the things that, we'll have to kind of look out for. You want to be able to move the inkling around maybe, or like change the head orientation and things. Now you will see a problem rather quickly. She's T-posing and her eyes are looking straight up. We want to get rid of that by dragging the local view target factor inside of this mode. You want to drag it all the way to the right. Now you can see her eyes in fact moved, and we can go ahead and basically, move those eyes. Now, most of this stuff is pretty much self-explanatory here. We have eyes up, down, moves the eyes up and down. I'll have her look at the camera, if we can kind of do that. Yeah, that works. Left, right explains, looking left, right, things like that, stuff like that. Now, as for the T-pose, you can see we can't select individual limbs, at least not in this mode. There are multiple ways you could do this. You could try to select, each limb individually inside the element viewer and things. That would just take forever. Or you can go here and, select whatever you want to select and, search for days. Or you can do, by pressing Control, you can actually select each limb individually. That's what I like to do. So now you can see, we have the arms essentially. So yeah, now that we have the arms selected, you can see if I drag it around, it doesn't affect the thing right away, but it's something, you should not be messing with. But anyways, so yeah, if you ever get something wrong or something goes wrong by posing or something, you can always press Control Z or Z, Control Z, and that will bring you back to the previous action. So you can try again or correct if, something went wrong on your end. Okay. So yeah, now that we know that, let's, we can use the work camera to zoom in because we have to create another one anyway. Let's go ahead and pose those arms down. Now we want to select to the global rotate tool, which is right here. And then we can kind of try to get an angle which looks a little realistic. I would think that is probably fine. And then we get the other arm down the same way we just got that down. There we go. All right, so now you can see we kind of did that. Now the arms are down, she's happy, smiling, smile at us. I'm sorry. Okay, but yeah, so now we got that. And you are always going to need to switch from this tool to this tool to this tool constantly. So keep these tools down here. It just is simpler. Cursor allows you to move around. This is for when you can move around as well with this tool, but it is also when you're moving your model, as an example. That is how you would do that. The rotate tool, the camera can always move around. If you hold the mouse click button and you can move stuff around in here, basically. But yeah, so now that we got that, we want to make her smile. How would we do that? Well, inside the model here, there is in fact stuff to make her smile. If we scroll down a little bit, just a little bit, till we reach stuff like face, we have face smirk. You can see she's now smirking. We have face mad, which is, mad state in quotes. Then we have the happy face, which that doesn't really look all that happy, but that's, the judgment is up to you. But there we go. So that's how you would do that. Then you have other facial expressions. Basically, these are all facial expressions. Basically, you have. Now you always want to take a look here at what you want. So stuff, let's say like smile, you have happy. You can also make her smile. There is in fact a smile slider. Yeah, right here. That kind of works, yeah, but there's also like a small smile and things. There's a smile alternative. There is stuff like, yell silent is basically just that. If you do yell, that's that. So you can basically go and experiment around with this a little bit Yeah, so basically I've been experimenting with this for a while. Now face happy small is basically this. I like this smile. It's so adorable. I love it. That's so cute. But yeah, so we now have that smile. You know, we can also make her smile with her teeth, which is also pretty cute. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with SFM, basically. You just have to kind of mess around. That's how I learned it. Watched one tutorial on how to dress the Inklings and pose, and the rest is all just, I learned it myself. And with a little research there and there. But apart from that, I've been doing this for like, well, my Diviner account says 3 years, which is already pretty impressive. But I've been doing it for like 2019. During the Corona pandemic in 2020, that was when I started, I think, or like probably got started. Thanks, Mika Ender Fox, by the way, for that. I started because of you. For the most part, and then also a couple of other artists along the way, but mainly because of her. That's why I started. Because I saw her animation stuff, and that was when, you know, I wanted to do it for myself, and that is how I found Source Filmmaker, first of all, and second of all, you know, all the stuff in general. But yeah, okay. So now that we have that, you know, you might be happy with your face thing, like your face posing. I'm gonna leave her like this because I kind of like that, even though I want the somewhere here was the, there it is, happy small. I find that very cute, so we're gonna leave that as that. Okay, so now you might ask, well, how do we change stuff like the hair color, the skin color, and things like that? The skin color can be changed by right-clicking on the Inkling model, then going down to Set Skin, and then you can go and select numbers, and you will see it will change, as an example, the tint of her skin. You can either make it realistic or a little unrealistic, like pretty pale, or like... There's so much you can use, or even this, which... Is that... I don't know if that one is the one you can edit. I don't think that one would be the one, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna check that in a minute here, but that's interesting that thing like that exists. So yeah, one, you know, has the freckles and things, summer stuff. Then we go back to our default here. Yeah, so that is how you would change the skin color. Now for the hair color, it's different. You want to right click on your model. You want to find Add Override Materials almost at the bottom. Want to click on that, then you want to right click on your model again, go to this section, show in element viewer, click your model, or well, you know, on the secondary pop-up, click on on model, and that will bring you here. Now don't just go in here, you know, changing values. I'm going to show you how you can change the color. And this will also become very important later, especially when you're doing all the shading and things, which I'm going to show you how you would do that, at least for the hair and, you know, stuff like the eyes, or the... You get the point. The hair and the eyes. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. So yeah, that is basically that. So you want to click on materials. You want to scroll down till you find M_team color hair 1 TCL, which is the tentacles, and then we have the M team color _ hair 1, which is the outer thing. Now you can see if I click in here, there's like a color selection thing. Find the color you want. Now of course you also can do RGB values right here. You know, you have RGB. You can put the values so you can hit a specific type of color. Like, let's say, I don't know, like a purple or something. That would be, I guess, somewhere in, well, that's close, but not. I know I'm not colorblind. I know that that's, you know, cyan, but maybe if I have to like figure out these values. You can either learn those, or you can just research every time you're looking for a certain color. But yeah, it's possible. But I'm gonna stick to this blue because I kind of like it. All right. So that is that is how you change the hair color. Now you can see we have some overlay stuff on the hair, like, you know, this like different color and things. That is where the TRM for the hair, that's the internal, wait, I think that's where this, yeah, that's where this plays a part. Yeah, the TCL is basically where you would change the inkling hair to have a certain color, like, I don't know, let's say blue or black or white or something along those lines. I'm gonna go with black because well, you know what, fine, we'll do that because it looks better. Then of course this model also has stuff like finger and toe glow. I know that that's very tempting for some of you guys, but we are going to start out easy. I'm going to at least show you how you would use it. Is you would right click on your model, you would go to set body groups, then you would go down to finger glow, click on finger glow.dmx, and now you can see the fingers have that, you know, color thing. The one that I also use on my OC, you know, where my fingers are blue and, you know, flesh after that. Basically, you probably get the point. You probably get what I mean if you've seen it. If not, go to my Divine Art page and take a look at it. But yeah, so that is basically kind of the rundown. Now, don't just go in and change every single color inside of here to something random. You always want to take a look at your inkling, what everything does. That is how I learned it. Stuff like, let's say, the team color brow is basically the eyebrows. Now, sometimes, like now, it tends to be glitched. How do you fix it? Same thing as before. You want to open it again in Element Viewer. Then you want to go to where you were again. And then if you change the color, now you can see it has kind of synchronized. Now it works again. It's a glitch that comes around every once in a while. Sometimes you're lucky where it just changes up on first attempt, but sometimes you have to do it twice. So if you're setting a specific color, you can copy colors by right-clicking on this color thing, copy, and then you can paste it in again. So you don't have, you know, mismatched colors all over your model / inkling, whatever, right? So that's how you would do that. All right, so now that's mostly the basics in a certain way. Mostly, I'm putting quotes on my fingers here. Mostly. Now you can see, you know, the hair is white, you know, glowing in the dark. I can show you that. Well, usually it glows. Maybe not right now. You can also change those colors by going inside of here and going under, where was it? I think, no, not hairstyle. I guess in this case it's enabled by default. Sometimes it's not. But yeah, so you can also remove the inkling's feet and things. You can also remove her feet. You can remove this stuff, which I can't do due to YouTube, well, you know, policies. But yeah, that is how you would do that, basically. So now we are going to go over, first of all, how you make your inkling visible, because you can't see right now, you know. We have this stuff here, where it's dark, we see the outlines, but we don't see our inkling model. How do we make it visible? Well, you can either leave it in this setting and export. That is overall not a bad idea, but it doesn't look too great. Especially with the background here. Now, what I always tend to do when I do lighting stuff is I tend to use a secondary camera. Now, you can right click on here and you can click on create animation set for new camera. Now, you will see you have a new camera and a bunch of settings. Don't go mess around with these right away. I'll try to show you kind of what I set on my cameras, mostly to kind of get that effect. So yeah, that's basically that. Then you want to click on work camera, and now you can see it has changed to camera 1. Now, for the important part here. Camera 1, well, no, wait, we have to switch to camera 2, just like that. Okay, yeah, now we're on camera 2. Camera 2 is the camera we just created. Now, something that's important, SFM will tell you, by the way, if you don't do that. If camera 2 is selected and you go to move, you can see there is an message that pops up which reminds you to switch inside the motion editor or graph editor Graph editor is for animation, and motion editor is just if you're moving it around, basically. And you can only move that when you have it selected and are in one of these modes. Then you can, not only zoom in, but you can also, move the camera around, all this good stuff. Yeah. I know it's getting rather complicated. I know that myself. Don't worry. I know that. But, yeah, that's pretty much most of the stuff. Now back to lighting. So lighting in SFM is not like real life lighting. It's pretty, artificial in a certain way. But you can make it kind of realistic if you know how light bounces off of surfaces, which always cast shadows. Now in Source Filmmaker, stuff like this can also be done, but it's rather, for me, it's rather hard to kind of explain that. So I'm going to have a link down in the video description if you want to learn more about lighting. Harry 101 UK actually goes over that in much greater detail than I do at the moment. And that tutorial is rather interesting. I think you should go watch it after this. Alright, so yeah, now that we have the light, we in fact can switch back to the work camera. Now this frame doesn't matter, ignore that for right now. Then we can move around the light by first of all having it selected, and you can see how I can kind of spin it around. Now by default it's perfectly centered. If you do ever need to move a light, you can do that, but it's not recommended. Then we have the intensity slider. The intensity slider does what it says. It controls the intensity of the light, and it also helps to kind of give, that SFM type of effect where, everything's kind of nicely in view, everything's lit pretty well. I would recommend if you're about to export, go inside of this like frame thing. Wait, what's it called? Let me just see real quick. I have to see what it's called. Clip editor by F2. You want to go inside the clip editor because that shows the final like set you have. So yeah, once you have your posing, everything, that's how that works essentially. So you can see the final stuff. Now something I recommend you do before exporting. Now I'm going to just quickly make a scene with the lights so it looks a little more lit up, because right now it kind of looks a little dark. So I'm gonna just go ahead and quickly make that and I'll be back. Alright, so now I've kind of basically made it look a little better. You can kind of see the eye reflections, stuff like that. The top is a little more pronounced. Everything's lit up a little more. You can see I've added a total of 4 lights to this scene. That is how you achieve that Ink Demon C type of quality, or like generally that type of quality. Now, something that is pretty cool is you can make a light volumetric. So you can kind of make it look like, I'm just going to demonstrate that real quick. I also have to make sure, yeah, that's one more thing. Always make sure every like 5 seconds to save your session, or like after you make changes that you want to keep, because SFM tends to crash, as I've already mentioned a lot. So volumetric lighting is basically lighting which looks like a car or something is driving in the dark. That is basically what volumetric lighting is. It's like if you turn on a lamp in real life, you know how it kind of has that shine. That is what volumetric lighting is. But yeah, that is basically an option you have. I don't use that a whole lot, but when I'm building scenes or like making, my OC picture and things, that is tactics I've used. However, that doesn't matter. Okay, back to what I was doing. So now we have camera 2, but I still think that's a little bright. Let's try it that much. And yes, you can fine tune the variables by clicking on them. And you can tune them a little bit more than just, the slider in general. That just helps. All right, yeah, that's... Does that look better? Well, if we set the camera right, that could actually look fine. Okay. Alright, so now we are going to move... I'm going to move the camera back a little bit. I will give her clothing, don't worry. But now we want to Tone map scale. Now, tone map scale is basically, first of all, the scale of how it looks. So it's essentially just the brightness. The bloom scale is just, the reflections and things. Now, don't go overboard with any of these variables. You want to set them slowly and take a look at how much lighting there is, because you don't want scenes being too bright. Now, somewhere in the neighborhood of like this is totally fine for a scene in terms of lighting. That's how you would, that's fine for a scene. Then we can maybe enhance the bloom scale just a little bit. And we'll move the tone scale down a little bit from the camera. Yeah, that kind of looks okay. It will look different in the export anyways. I'm just saying, like, that basically. It can help if you set it kind of up like that, but you can kind of see how it works. All right. So now that we have that set, we are pretty much halfway done. Now I'm going to show you how to attach clothes. Now, how you attach clothes is you first of all find the stuff you want. So let's say something like a hoodie or a zipper or something. You can type in hoodie, zipper. It should find what you're looking for, basically, is what it should find. I'm going to use... yeah, let's use that one. Now make sure you don't select the IK variant unless the Inkling variant you selected is IK. Otherwise, it can cause, well, issues with your models and things. So yeah, how this now works is in order to attach your model, you want to select the model and you want to drag it onto the clothes. So you want to select your Inkling, drag it onto the clothes. Now you're not completely done. You want to use the 0 slider, which in some cases works and sometimes it doesn't. If that doesn't work, or you notice that your thing has glitches, all that good stuff, there is a way around this by going inside the body things on both models. Click on that plus body, and now you can essentially, select this stuff, and then you have to basically just drag the original model, so your Inkling model, you have to drag the stuff that is in there onto here, and then you can use the, I always like to use the spine extension stuff. If you use that and drag to 0, that should usually help, but sometimes it doesn't. It depends on what you're doing, and as I said, SFM is a program you learn by doing, not by just watching videos. All right, let me make the hair look a tad bit more, realistic overall. I mean, realistic in a sense of, pose more realistic. I like that. Okay. So now that we did that, we are pretty much, you can say, halfway through. We have our clothes attached and things like that. Now comes the part of, making the hair shiny and things, but to be honest, for any beginner starting out making posters, don't mess with the cube maps yet, and keep your camera settings. That's what I wanted to say. And then you want to select PNG or JPEG, whatever suits you. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to do. Yeah, you want to right click on your frame. You want to go on render settings. And you want to, rather than use the camera settings, you want to select like these settings. Now it's important, by selecting these settings, you're putting more stress on your GPU. If you have an RTX 3080 or newer, round about something with 8 gigabytes of VRAM or more, you can use 124 or 128. For those people who have older hardware, like let's say an RTX 2080 or something along those lines, or even before, those should basically either use camera settings or go down to like 128 or less. Now in my case, I'm going to be using 128 on both, because that's just what I'm going to be doing for the video. Leave everything like this, leave everything of this stuff checked, press on OK, And now what it's going to do is it will make your image look nicer. There won't be as many pixels as before, like these, black dots and things. That is how you get rid of that stuff. Then go to export again, poster. Then you want to select your file location where you want this. So in my case, I should probably put that onto my, let's put it on my network drive here. I'm going to create a new folder, which I'm going to call, I'm in the, I'm in the wrong folder. Then second, here it is. That's the folder. I always like to create a folder called export because it just makes it so much easier to later find it, especially if you know where you've saved it. Like if you want to save it into an external drive or something, go ahead, do it. I am saving it to my NAS now. I'm gonna do tutorial image. I'm also not gonna put a space because I know that likes to confuse. I'm gonna put a dash and then I'm gonna do save. And then I'll go to export poster. Now this will take a little while. Now if it looks too bright, you can do a little more modification on your end and it might look a little better, but sometimes the render you're right now seeing is not really the permanent render some of the time, but it could be that that is kind of what it looks like. Let me just see here. Source filmmaker, the day, export image. Yeah, that's a little too bright. Let's maybe dial the tone map scale just back a little bit to kind of give it a little more bloom scale. Well, no, that's kind of like that, and then a little more kind of like that. Yeah, I like that. Kind of like this. And let me just up the quality on my end because I always use the highest settings. And then we'll export again. Try that again. Let's see where that gets us this time. Yeah, sometimes it can look a little, well, crappy if your camera settings are a little like weird. But you don't have to technically go in and change the camera settings. It's just an optional step you can kind of do to bring it a little more to life. All right, so yeah. Once you're done, which will take a short tiny bit, there we go. All right, so now that the image has been finished, you can now use it as stuff like a Discord profile, a YouTube banner, whatever the case may be. You can modify it to your liking, edit the stuff, like more color accuracy with Photoshop and things. But yeah, so that's basically the basics of Source Filmmaker. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like. If you have any remaining questions, like how do I do this, how can I do this, and things like that, put them down either in the comments or join my Discord server. We have a frequently asked questions channel where you can ask Source Filmmaker questions. Now, please keep in mind that you always want to check before asking your question if somebody else has already asked, because I won't answer things twice, or at least I will tell you to look inside of that message to figure out the answer if it has already been asked. For those people who are commenting in the comments, I will try to reply as soon as I can, but the Discord tends to be somewhat faster because that in fact leaves a little more options open for me to answer more. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, as I already said, like and subscribe if you're feeling very generous. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!